Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, and you have reached another episode of Leadership is Served, and I have a treat for you. I have none other than Reneldo Randall, who is the CEO and principal consultant of Bridge Builder and Associates, LLC. And you know, here on Leadership is Served, we talk leader to leader. And so, Reneldo, tell the leadership community about your company.
Yes. Welcome to everyone, and thank you for having me, Dr. Karen. As she mentioned, my name is Reneldo Randall, and I have a kind of a boutique consultancy firm, Bridge Building Associates LLC, where we focus on engineering better people through self-mastery, people mastery, and communication mastery. And so I'll talk a little bit later about how you can find me, but that's the nuts and bolts of what we do. And I really think that I think leadership is communication largely. And so that's why I chose those three things, or those three things chose me to kind of be the three things that are the pillars that lead my consultancy firm.
Great. So let's just jump right into the questions. And so my first question to you is, when you hear the question or the statement, are leaders born or created? Tell me, what are the first thoughts that come to mind in regards to that statement?
So it's both, right? The first thought is both, and that gives me some latitude to really talk through it. The more that I think about it, though, I think that they're made. I think that there's some things that they have innately that you just can't give to them, and that lend themselves better to being a leader. But I think a lot of that has to be sharpened, right? So just having an understanding of, there's these natural things that I have, how can I sharpen them to make me a better leadership? And really, it's their unique value proposition in the leadership space. But definitely I feel like not made, but sharpened. And some are made too, right? So positions, situations that you find yourself in, ideologies, right? Mentorship, all help you to become a better leader. And so I think some of the things you're born with, but it would be hard to pinpoint exactly, right? Causation wise, like what are the things that you're born with that makes you a leader versus what you learn through formal education or, informal education.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there. I believe it's a combination as well, because one of my hobbies is I'm a people watcher, and I specifically like to watch children. And so when I think about children on a playground, children who've been here for a limited time on this earth, they may be 4 or 5 years, you will always find at least one or two who naturally delegate, who see a need to determine strengths and weaknesses if it's a team sport. They assess Karen is good or Karen is not good. So I want Karen on my team, or I don't want Karen on my team. And so those individuals appear to their short time here on this earth, have some of the qualities that we would want in a leader. And so the experience of, as they grow up and find themselves in those situations, and when they use those situations, when they make those decisions, will help fine tune when to make the what decision when. So I do think it is a combination of both, but I do think we're all born with the ability to step up, assess, and determine what needs to be done, but only a few actually implement at a young age.
Or at an old age. Yeah. Or wiser. Yeah. You're right. I think and so that's a good point. I'm also a people watcher. So okay. Kindred spirits. Okay. But and I have 2 children, and you're right, they're very different. A lot of that we didn't do anything about. You're raised in the same household, but they were born different, right? Yeah. Inside. And their gifts are different. So you're certainly right about that. I think it's like, when I say sharpening, if I could add to that, like people cultivating it. Like sometimes people have to give young people and older people permission, right? And there's that self-esteem and self-worth and imposter syndrome that they got to work through to know that, oh, this is a gift, and I have something special that lends itself to being a leader. So that's remarkable. Yeah.
Yes. I don't disagree with you there. So totally, we're like you said, kindred spirits. So receipts. Nowadays, people are looking for receipts. They want to see, if you're a leader, they want to see evidence of your successful leadership is really what they're looking for. And so what do you think is evidence of true leadership?
Yeah, the receipts, right? So I think some of it's respect, right? What people say about you when you're not in the room, the whole your reputation but goes before you. So some of it's respect and what people say about you. And I think some of it is the receipts, like the actual results. Now,
Yeah.
just because you have results don't mean that you're a good leader, but it's indicative of some good leadership, right? Maybe you brought some good managers aboard to help execute your vision. But it's one attribute that could be attributed to leadership. That's the real receipt, right? The proof is in the pudding. But I also think I struggle with this a little bit, but I think leadership is influence, right?
Oh,
And so the influence you're able to have, I think, is also a telltale sign that you're a good leader, right? Are you able to move people?
yes.
Are you able to move people to do what you, and influence could be bad or good, right? You got Martin Luther King, you got Hitler, but it's
Mhm.
still leadership. It's just how you utilize it. So I would say really the influence, the respect that hopefully comes as a result of how you've exercised influence. And then, yeah, the real receipts, like what have you gotten done? What have
Yes.
you gotten done?
Yes, I like, everything that you said there. I like everything that you said there, but something that you said there kind of dinged me. And that was, just because you have receipts does not mean that you're a good leader. Oh, that's powerful and so true and so accurate. Oh my God, that's a whole different show because
Yeah, yeah.
if you think about it, companies cycle out leaders, successful companies cycle out leaders all of the time, and they don't miss a skip in the marketplace. They don't lose their footing in the marketplace just because they change the head. So, because a lot of the work is being done beyond the head, underneath the head. The head is the visionary, the forecast, the monitor to ensure that you're on path. But the work, the actual work,
Right.
and the tweaking of the vision is done by the people, the boots on the ground. The people who are actually interacting with your clients, who are interacting with your technology that you're using in the company. They're the ones who's giving feedback, saying this technology is working or is not working. Your salespeople, and it could be just one person, is the person who's saying people are looking for this and people are looking for that or not looking for this, and we need to add this to our list of products and our services. And so, yes, you can really have a successful company that can show receipts and the leader not be effective. And that's a whole different show. But I wanted to let you know, I agree. I agree
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that. And
That's major, Doc. That's major.
yes, I hadn't really thought about it. I know it to be true. When I heard it, when it hit my ears, I was like, yep, that's true. But and that's a whole nother show. But yes, I love that. So competencies are required for all leaders. We have, for senior leaders, there are certain, I believe that senior leaders need to know how to lead people, need to know how to lead change. We need to know the role of automation within our industry. We also need to know how to use data analytics so that we can monitor, forecast, evaluate, all of that within our business. And so there are core competencies of leadership, but there are also those EQ competencies, those, being aware of your impact on others, as well as, being, have an introspective way of looking at yourself realistic wise. So when you think of competencies, what are Renaldo's competencies of true leadership? And if you can share with the leadership community an example of where you use one of those competencies.
Oh wow, you said a mouthful. Then you threw my name in it. Okay. I thought I was gonna be able to get a general list. Okay, so you threw your analytics in there. I know you're the analytics lady,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I definitely respect that data-driven decision. So I would say, let me preference it with this, right? And you kind of said it and you kind of interwove them. I think that there's tangible and intangible, right? I think managers play in the tangible more than leaders. And I feel like leaders do the intangibles. But obviously, you need that tangible information like analytics to help make decisions. So there's a distinct difference between management and leadership, right? So for leaders, I think that there you need to be. So you mentioned and kind of emotional intelligence. Absolutely have to have that, have a high self-awareness, high emotional intelligence. And with that, I think similarly but different, you need to be thoughtful. So there needs to be a high degree of thoughtfulness. You need to think through how the decision you're going to make is going to impact all constituents, right? You don't want to sub-optimize, like I make this good decision for my department or the C-suite, and then the effect and impact has a negative going out into the other, the other areas of business. So I think that's important. Humility is very important, right? I think that humility helps you remain human and helps people approach you. Because when you hire good people, you want good people to be free to come to you to tell you their good ideas. Hire good people, let them be great,
Yes.
right? And so in order to do that, you have to be humble.
Yes.
And admitting mistakes, admitting your idea is not the best idea, so that they will talk to you about the greatness that they have within, and you can use that to benefit the company, right? And so you win by default, and the company wins by default. And I think obviously intelligence. You want to be smart, and there's a lot of levels of intelligence, right? But you do want to be competent in the basic tenets of whatever your business is. Definitely good communication skills, right? Because you got to be able to tweak the communication. And many people know to break down the communication. A very small percentage of it is what you say out of your mouth. So the full communication spectrum. So man, examples. So I feel like I've been blessed with, and I've been blessed with being able to handle issues and then forget the issue. So it's a gift and a curse, right? And so I feel like so if I can speak generally of how I've seen this play out when I've used it, I've been able to move people in ways that other people could move them, to get them to do things that they probably wouldn't have done and they probably didn't enjoy, but to do it with joy. And so I think that's the benefit of that combination of things. And so I can't think of one thing off the top of my mind, but I know that I use this like I literally run it down in my head. And then I assess it. I'm like, okay, I know they don't want to do it. How do I approach this specific person in a way that will move them, right? So it's a lot of psychology, sociology, human behavior, right? All of those things. And understanding and knowing my employees, right? Or volunteers, whomever it is communicate with them specifically in a way that allow me to help them get the thing done with a smile on their face, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Well, inspire. It's more transformational. It's not transactional as it's more transformational leadership is what you're talking about. And because we, again, here in Leadership is Served, we believe that leadership is fully situational. You cannot lead the same time every day with every situation the same way. You have to use and observe what you have in front of you, the situation, resources, technology, everything, financial resources, time resources, talent resources, to make the decision that you need to make for that particular minute. Now, ironically, if any of those things change, your decision is outdated because you need to reassess based on the pivot or whatever change.
Yeah.
So it's based on, if we believe that leadership is purely situational. And so I don't disagree with anything that you said there. And then something that you said kind of resonated with me is one of my quotes. I'm a readaholic. And so Steve Jobs once said that he did not hire smart people to tell him what to do. And I thought that was interesting, and that he hired them for their intelligence, for their innovativeness, and he allowed them to go forth and be innovative. And then once they created the innovations, and we know how successful his company was, I mean, he's no longer with us, but the company goes on, but they did with the business side. But in terms of the innovative side, he hired smart people and he let them do their job without any restraints. And I'm sure that fed into the prescription of success for the company.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned something, you just said something, and I like, oh, I really should have mentioned that as a term that goes with it. It's emotional recovery. So you also have the strong, you said pivot, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you got to have a strong emotional recovery to
Oh,
pivot as quickly as you need to. Yeah, and situational leadership is really what I subscribe to. Hershey and Blanchard's situational leadership model.
yeah.
If we're talking that type of stuff, yeah, situational leadership. And it's interesting because people have these leadership styles that there's a theory for. And I always encourage people, like, there's a style out there for it.
Yep.
Lead like you lead. Go find
Yep.
the style.
Yep.
Makes, it reinforces, it gives some power
Yep.
to the fact that what you do is actually leadership and how you do it.
Yep. And once you articulate or find out or diagnose what your personal style is, your primary style, because we all have a primary style, and then the secondary styles is based on the situation. So we have a primary style, and we just have to remember we need to pivot from that primary based on the situation that we're dealing with. But once you do that assessment, then you have to, what am I trying to say? You have to evolve, you have to build on, because I believe we're all lifetime learners, build on and evolve with that. Even your particular style and how you apply it, the style in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s is not the same. You have to evolve with the time, that your environmental situation, what's happening to you externally. And so even though you might have a primary style, you still have to evolve that style based on, over time. You can never
Generations.
you can't be the same leader now that you were in the 80s or the 90s.
So flexibility.
Too much externally has changed for you to be the same type of leader.
I'm in complete harmony with that. Harmony with that.
Yes. So I could talk this stuff all day and all night, but I want to talk about opportunities. I want to talk about, from one leader to the next. As leaders, we have visions. We're working towards missions. We do this planning and, on how we want our vision to go forth and just be strategized and laid out. And then after it's implemented, it does not render the success that we envision, And so how do leaders rise again after they had a situation? In most cases, when you're a leader, it's a very visible situation, because if it wasn't successful, you've impacted your employees, your business, sometimes your bottom line. And so how do leaders rise again? And can you share an example of where you plan, strategize, envision something, and it didn't go forth the way or yield what it is that you thought it was going to yield, and how you pivoted from that?
Oh yeah, sure. That happens all the time. Now there's levels to it for sure, right? I mean, some things are more significant, but I think it's par for the course. Like, that's the way you become a better leader, like handling tough situations, navigating it, learning from it, and learning quickly, right? And so I think it's par for the course. And I always tell people, the wins build your record, so to speak, but the losses, if we count these as losses, build you, right? Build
like
you.
that.
And so nothing's a loss. I'm like, either I win or I learn, right? And so it's part of its mindset, right? So if you have that mindset, it goes back to the quick emotional recovery. You're like, everybody loses. Everybody has a rag to rich story. You just don't always get to hear it. And this is why it's also good to have people like you and I as mentors and confidants that can help sharpen your sword. And so when you get into those situations, I always say, one of my quotes is outwork the work, right? And so if you do something that you make a bad decision, which we all will at different levels, you just got to outwork the work. So if you look at it like a bank, right? It's all about deposits and withdrawals. So if I make a withdrawal, like a bad decision, then I have to deposit twice as much. And so I'm outworking the work, right? And so that's how I think about it. That is really a mindset, the quick emotional recovery, knowing that you're going to lose, but it's par for the course, right? And everything is practice for the next thing and the next level that you'll be taken to, right? So I got tons and tons and tons of examples. I'm trying to remember which one is the best. I mean, well, I will say that one of the things that my biggest leadership moment and my biggest leadership responsibility was when I got married. Right,
Wow.
that's huge. Oh yeah. Right, because depending on where your religion is and your faith is and you're spiritual, like that's a high call, right? You have to be willing to die for it. You ain't gonna die for your job, right? You might be willing to do some blood, sweat, and tears, but you're not gonna die. But the edict is in that situation, that in that union is you have to be willing to die, and everything that happens under that union and what fruit it bears in terms of children is under you. And so I feel like that I've probably made some not so wise decisions on occasion and really not listening to my wife, right? And so maybe an uncommon example, but I feel like that matters the most to me, and that's the only responsibility I have that's assigned with death given by God, right? And so I feel like I made some bad decisions there, and part of it's just not listening. And I know this leaders have to make decisions, and sometimes they have to make them quickly, but you do want to go back to that thoughtfulness. So thinking through it. Other things have happened in my nonprofit, the Black Chamber, in my various jobs, I made bad decisions. But I always learn from them, right? And willing to go back and apologize for and that's back to humility, right? Going back to apologize, or at least it's not always an apology, it's a recognition that I didn't make the probably the best decision, even though I had enough information, I didn't process it right at the moment, and learn, right? And so people respect that, and you definitely grow from it. So I definitely think it's a mindset of outworking the work, making
Yes.
more deposits than you do withdrawals, and being honest if you make a mistake, right? And so I think that's a good formula. And like I've done it a lot of times, so much so that I don't even have a great example. But once again, the way my mind works is that I get past it, but I learn. And then I take that knowledge moving forward. So, you win and you lose, but the losses build your character, build your leadership capacity.
I love that. I love that. And I've had some pain points in my career as an entrepreneur as well as in corporate America. And I try to assess, well, what did I learn from this? What did I learn, or what did I get from this? And when I mean, what did I get? Was there a plus in this situation, even though I may be looking at it as an adverse situation, but there's got to be a plus in this situation, and let me find a plus in this situation. And then, and sometimes it takes me a minute to get there because I have to get my emotions down so that I can think rationally and just really kind of go blow by blow, but what happened and where can I see that I benefited from that, whether it was in knowledge, experience, so I know what to look for and what not to look for in terms of focusing on different things in terms of my time, what to look for in terms of what I'm working on, or even if it's dealing with people. Should I say it like that again going forward? Or maybe should I say it a little different? Or should I have said it at all?
Yeah. Sometimes silence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, in the big scheme of things, was it worth putting that out there on the landscape at that particular time if it caused an impact that was adverse to where it is that you were trying to go? And so, yeah, I definitely do that assessment. Not a lot of people do that assessment. I love the term you use, emotional recovery. Is there an author of that term? Is there a book that the leadership community can read, or do you remember where you picked it up from? Because I love that. It seems so deep. Seems like something we should kind of hone in on, read up on.
Yeah, so there's not a book, all knowledge is borrowed, so much so that I don't know where I got it from. But it was at a conference. I was with a gentleman and he said, they just have to, he said it and I was like, stolen, rip off and duplicate, right? R&D is either research and development or rip off and duplicate. All knowledge is borrowed. Somebody was the originator of the term, probably was not him. I would say Google and go try to find it. But people that got it and heard it, you automatically know what it means. And when you say it to people, it strikes them different, right? Especially like-minded people that are leaders. So, So I've used it 2-3 times because it fits. Like it's the pivot. It's the pivot. It's everything to get you. And like Navy SEALs, when Navy SEALs train, there's a training that they do where it skips the thoughtfulness part of their brain. I wish I knew the actual jargon, and go straight to the action, right? Like Navy SEAL training, because they can't afford to think about it. They have to act because it's life or death. And so that's the reading I think people should do to help them understand emotional recovery. So if you look at, I forget what the books are, but Navy SEAL training, you probably Google it, talks
Okay.
about the part of the brain that it skips to go to the frontal lobe for them to act.
Okay.
And that gets you closer to, emotional recovery, right? Because it's just a quick action. Now,
And
don't
like
forget the thoughtfulness.
Yes, 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 yes. And I like listening to the two words, emotional recovery. It allows you to have emotion, but you need to focus on the recovery part. So it doesn't forsake one for the other. So it recognizes that we have emotion, hence emotional, but it also allows, okay, now you know the pivot part. It's like part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
Okay, now you've had the emotion, let's focus on the recovery. And that's what I find so attractive about it. It doesn't say that you can't have one and not look towards the other. It say, okay, this exists, but now this is part 2. So yeah, so definitely love that. Thank you for introducing that term. And I'm sure some people will Google it. I'm a readaholic, so I'll definitely Google it. So this has been a blast. This has been a blast. So if you could tell the leadership community how they can stay in contact with you, and please share if you have anything coming up that you think maybe they may have an interest about.
Sure. So you can, my web address is my name. So it's actually Reneldo with an E. So it's RENELDO, last name Randall, RANDALL.com. You can find me all social media outlets by my government name. Something we have coming up here in the first quarter of 2022, and Dr. Karen blessed us at this particular venue probably a couple quarters ago, is a next level mastermind. So from February 19th through the 20th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we have a mastermind where we have some phenomenal speakers that are come on. We try to do some deep dives. We do some deep dives, talk about your business, talk about leadership, mindset, analytics. We talk about all the things that you need to build your business, including leadership. That has to be a part of it. So February 19th through the 20th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., that will be happening. And you can find me everywhere, Reneldo Randall, and to include ReneldoRandall.com.
Thank you. And I'm sure they will look you up. Well, this has been another wonderful episode of Leadership is Served. And if you tuned in at the middle of the episode, I am Dr. Karen Hills Pruden. I am the host of Leadership is Served. We come on every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are on 15 different channels. We're in over 200 countries. And so you may want to tune into our Facebook page so that you can get the most up-to-date information on how to access us, and so that you can see this wonderful interview of other leader to leader, candor, uncensored conversations.